OSHA audit aftermath. What do you do the day after you've had an OSHA audit? Well, if you're listening to this and you just went through an OSHA inspection, this episode will really help you get some clarity around what your next step should be. This is the first thing you should do the day after an OSHA audit. Let's dive in. Okay, so OSHA showed up yesterday. They did the full walkthrough of your facility. They left your facility. And now you're sitting there in your office and you're wondering, what do I do now? Well, this is what you do. The first step you need to take is you need to do what I call a mind dump. That means you need to write down every single thing that happened during the OSHA inspection. You see, one thing that happens during an OSHA inspection is you get overwhelmed. You feel stressed out. You feel like you got a million things going on. And with all these ideas bouncing around in your head, it gets hard to focus on the right things. And so one of the best things you can do is take all that stuff that's bouncing around in your head and put it down onto a legal pad. Now, the first step is just that. Write it down. That's the first thing you need to do after an OSHA audit. Write down every single thing that happened. And when you write down what happened, it's going to do a couple of things for you. One, it's going to give you clarity about what actually happened. Two, it's going to help you organize and prioritize what needs to be done next. And three, it will help communicate what happened and what needs to be done since OSHA visited. Okay? So let's talk about writing it down. Like I said, the first thing you want to do is get it out of your head and down onto paper. I'll never forget the first time I went through an OSHA audit, I was overwhelmed, not just by the audit, but by all the other work that I was having to table and put off to the side. That's one of the challenges you don't realize. Oftentimes, a safety manager is wearing more than one hat. You might be in HR, you might be in maintenance, you might be, some kind of compliance manager. That's what I was. I was doing environmental, I was doing safety. I was actually in charge of food safety and quality at the time that we had our OSHA audit. And I remember thinking, I've got all these other masters that I have to please, and I've got to put them off. And so that's one of the things you want to jot down. You want to write down exactly what was happening before OSHA knocked on the door. For me, I had just got out of a manager's meeting and I had a list of all the things I needed to do for the rest of the week. The first thing I needed to do was I needed to delegate some of those tasks to other managers so that the ball didn't get dropped just because this thing surfaced. OSHA is incredibly important, but if you don't get your other jobs done, you can suffer because of it. So when you write down your list, I want you to write down everything you were doing before OSHA showed up. Then you're going to write down what happened when they came. So think about time. What time did they show up? Who was the first person they talked to? What was the first interaction? What was the opening conference like? Who was involved in the opening conference? Make sure you list out the people, the managers that were there during the opening conference. You want to have the people that were there, what time it happened. You want to be thinking, what triggered the OSHA audit? Most managers are so overwhelmed, they don't even think about why OSHA showed up. There's a reason they came to your facility. So think about, why did they come? Write it down. Specifically, write it down. If it was a complaint, an employee complaint, and you have access to it, make a copy of that so you have that in your file. This mind dump is going to be one of the first documents that you have going in your folder. And some people choose to do it different ways. I know some managers, they like to actually put it in a Google Doc or in their notes app on their phone. I had one manager one time, he told me that when he was driving home after the audit, he actually just talked to his phone, right? I mean, with AI and with all the other stuff, you can actually have it, dictate what happened and have it captured in your phone. Me, I'm old school. I would rather have a notepad, have a legal pad, go into a quiet room, maybe get to your office early the next day, or go off to lunch somewhere and just, sit down with a legal pad and write down every single thing that comes into your brain. Don't think about the order. Don't think about how it needs to be delegated to people right now. The first part is just getting it out. Just get it out, get it all down so that whatever is bouncing around in your head gets down on the paper. This will give you incredible clarity so that you can focus on what needs to be focused on, and you can delegate what needs to be delegated. You can prioritize what needs to be prioritized. This is the way that you're going to keep your sanity during an OSHA audit. So that's the first step, is to write it down. Now, after you've gotten it written down, it's kind of like the rough draft. You don't really want to show that to anybody because it's a mess, right? You want to have just free thinking to where you're just flowing the thoughts out of your brain and down onto the legal pad or out of your mouth and being transcribed into your phone. So that flow thinking is hard for anybody else to understand. So the next step is you are going to organize that list and prioritize the list. Now, when you prioritize the list, you're going to break it into 3 main categories. The first category is going to be problems that we found. The second category is going to be people that we talked with. So we've got problems that we found, we got people that we talked with, and then the next category is going to be tasks that need to be delegated. So problems that we found, people that we talked to, and tasks that need to be delegated. And here's what I mean by that. Oftentimes when you find a problem during an OSHA inspection, it's something that can be fixed really quick. Ideally, you'll fix it during the inspection so that you can tell the OSHA auditor, hey, we actually fixed it already. It's done. Now, if you haven't already, you sign up for the OSHA audit course. In this course, I will explain exactly what you should and shouldn't do during the OSHA audit. This course gives you everything you need to know about how to handle an OSHA audit. You can download that course if you just simply go to my website, helpwithosha.com. This is a course that shows you, number one, how to prepare your team for an audit. But if you've had an audit, it gives you a checklist of exactly what you need to do and then teaches you step by step what you need to do when you're responding to OSHA after the audit. So a big part of that is figuring out, okay, we found this problem. Let's just say it was a chemical that wasn't labeled correctly. That's an easy fix, right? That's a super easy fix. So what do? We label that chemical. Then we take a picture of that to document it. And we put a timestamp on it. So we show, hey, we found it at 1 o'clock that afternoon. That thing was fixed by 1:15. And not only that, but then we want to retrain our people in the area so that we are putting a preventative action in place so it doesn't happen again. And then you document the training. So you're trying to do the right thing and then prove that you did the right thing. That's an easy fix. So when I have a problem, I know, okay, this problem is an easy problem to fix. It's fast. It's what I call a fast fix. Now, there's some issues that are not going to be a fast fix. There's some issues where you're going to have to bring in an outside contractor to fix the problem. And if you're doing that, you actually have to schedule that fix. So you have fast fixes, and then you have fixes that have to be scheduled. Now, sometimes it's going to be scheduled by an outside person. Sometimes it's going to be scheduled by the maintenance department. That's the reason for prioritizing the list. The things that we can fix fast, we're going to put those at the top of the list. The reason we put them at the top of the list is because we want to show, man, we're knocking this out, we're knocking that out, we're knocking this out, we're knocking that out. We want to show that we're fixing things as quick as possible. And then for the things that can't be fixed quickly, we are going to make a plan and schedule somebody to fix it. So let's just say it's a Thursday. We had the audit on Wednesday. One thing you can do, you might not be able to get everything fixed on Thursday. It's impossible. We have to bring in a contractor to help us with this overhead crane. This is not going to be fixed. But what we can do is we can lock it out, take it out of service. We can schedule the contractor to come in, and that contractor is scheduled to come in on Saturday and correct this problem. So the immediate fix is we've tagged it out of service. It's not going to get anybody hurt. The follow-up is that we've already scheduled with the contractor to come out on Saturday, repair this so that we can fix the problem, and then we can document we scheduled it and we fixed it and it's done. So you have fast fixes, and then you got fixes that actually have to be scheduled. But that's the way we're going to break it down. So like I was saying, problems, people, communication, what can be communicated. Now, the other thing that I wanted to make sure we talked about was talking about after we've organized the list, we've prioritized the list, we've broken it down to where it can be the third step, communicated. So what I've discovered is after an audit happens, the day of the audit, it's kind of like everyone's running around, everybody's doing their thing, and we're working on this and we're working on that and we're doing this thing over there. People want to know what happened during the OSHA inspection. And if you're the safety manager or you're the one wearing this hat at the time, they're going to come and they're going to ask you, hey, how did the OSHA inspection go? Well, that's a loaded question, isn't it? What you have to do is you have to figure out, okay, I've dumped out my mind. I've prioritized my list. Now I can communicate to the people that need to know. Because here's the thing, there's going to be a different audience that needs to be communicated to. So your first audience is going to be the leadership of the company. Your boss, the owner of the company, the president of the company, somebody will come in, the plant manager. Hey, tell me about that audit. The best thing you can do is schedule a meeting so that you can communicate what the findings were. If you just say, oh, they found a lot of things, or they didn't find anything, that doesn't help you at all. Because the goal is to fix whatever they found and make sure it doesn't happen again. So saying we found a lot, or we didn't find anything, what we want to do is be able to communicate, these are our top priorities. Here's the plan moving forward. You see, leadership doesn't want you to make the plan. They want you to make the plan. Let me say that again. Company leadership, when they have a safety manager or a safety coordinator, they don't want to be the one that's stepping into your world and making the plan for you. They want you to make the plan. It's your job to clearly communicate, hey, this is what we're going to do moving forward. And if you need assistance, getting money to make a correction or getting production to organize or maintenance to organize, that's a separate conversation. But when you're just explaining this is what was found during the OSHA audit, it's really communicating with leadership. This is what we found. Here's our plan. This is what we found. Here's our plan. Now, when you have communication with your peers, it's going to be a little bit different. Same kind of premise. This is what we found. Here's our plan. But I need your help with, and then you can talk about what you need help with. Anybody that was in the opening conference and the closing conference needs to be a valued member of the plan going forward for how to fix the problems. So you want to take that information and communicate it with maintenance. You want to communicate it with production. You want to communicate it with your office manager or your HR manager. You want to make sure you have the people that were on that team, security, whoever was on that opening conference, that you're communicating, this is what we found, this is what the plan is going forward. Now, the third audience that you're going to need to talk to, all the employees. All the employees. You see, they know OSHA showed up. And the rumor mill starts moving as soon as the cars pull in the parking lot. Oh man, did you see Department of Labor's here? Yeah, OSHA's here. Those start immediately. The best thing you can do is have an open dialogue with people and say, yeah, they showed up. They were focused on this. Here's what we're doing. You don't want to say, yeah, then a bunch of idiots showed up. They didn't know what they were doing. They didn't find anything. Or, man, they came in and they found so much stuff. We're in so much trouble. You want to be calm, cool, and collected. You want to make sure you're sharing, this is what they found, right? This is what they were looking for. This is what they found. Here's our plan moving forward. You don't want to overshare with all the employees. The goal is for them to walk away from that meeting feeling like, yeah, this is a good company. They got it figured out. They're going to take care of it. They're going to take care of me. They care about me. That's the goal of that communication. So you've talked to upper management. You've talked to your peers. You've talked to all the employees. The fourth group that you're going to communicate with after an audit, and this is the most important group, the OSHA inspector himself or herself. So when they came on site, they gave you a card, right? Took a picture of it. We got their email address. We got their phone number. We know what office they're out of. We're going to make sure that we communicate with them the day after an audit. So we communicated during the closing conference. The day after an audit, we're going to send an email explaining what we fixed immediately and asking any follow-up questions. This is not your life story. This is not meant to be long. What this is meant to do, this email is meant to show the OSHA compliance officer that you are taking this inspection seriously and that you have already fixed issues that they found. You see, they don't write the citations when they leave. Like they go, okay, we're leaving, closing conference, here's your citations. They haven't written them yet. So the best thing you can do is show them, hey, we are moving forward fast. We're fixing these problems before you even have time to write the citations for us. So we want to make sure that we are communicating and showing them this is a first-class organization and we take safety seriously and we're going to fix the problems. And even if we don't think they're problems, we're going to make them better. So that's the goal. Just to recap, I want to make sure that I tell you everything I need to tell you. So the day after an audit, OSHA audit aftermath, there's going to be 3 things you need to be focused on. The first one is dumping all the information out of your mind. That's the secret right there. That will get your mind clear and get rid of all the clutter. So the first thing you're going to do is you are going to write it down. You are going to write it down. Like I said, I like a legal pad. I like just sitting there writing it down, having some quiet time and just jotting everything down that's in my mind. I'm thinking about who we talked to that day. I'm thinking about problems that were found. I'm thinking about what I was doing the day before. I'm thinking about what I need to do today. Everything that's on my brain goes down on that pad of paper. After that, I don't want to show that paper to anybody. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to prioritize. I'm going to prioritize and organize that list. When I organize it, I'm going to make sure I'm organizing it so I'm identifying problems, specific problems, people that I talked to, people that were interviewed, people I need to follow up with, and then how am I going to communicate and what do I need to communicate? And that leads me to the third piece of the puzzle, which is after I have dumped everything out of my head, I've organized it correctly, then I'm going to communicate it. Now, I would not recommend you communicate through an email primarily. And what I mean by that is email is great as a passive way to communicate. You can communicate the plan through an email, but when you have a meeting, it shows people this is actually something we need to sit down and have a meeting on. I want to present this information. I want to make sure I'm looking at you and we understand these are the next steps moving forward. And like I said, We're going to make fixes where we can fix them. We're going to schedule things that we can't fix immediately. And we're going to communicate with OSHA above anybody else to make sure they know that we're taking this serious. So I hope you found this episode helpful. To be honest, I hope you never need it. But if you're watching it, you might need it right now. And so I want to make sure you know I have a whole OSHA audit course online. It is extremely reasonable, and it will help take the stress off of you, and it will teach you what you need to do to respond to OSHA quickly so that you can avoid citations and maybe even eliminate citations. With that in mind, until we talk again, do everything you can to keep the people you work with safe, because no one should get hurt at work.